It's 10 p.m. this Wednesday evening. Hello, I'm Glenda Chong.
And I'm Steve Lai, and you're watching Singapore Tonight. Here are your top stories. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says that ASEAN is well positioned to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution.
More hawker stalls to offer cashless payments as NETS is appointed to help unify e-payment transactions.
Road users could get smoother traffic flow in the future, with smart traffic lights set to go on trial from the end of this month.
And also on tonight's show, now ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend, we take you behind the scenes and find out how Formula One's only full night race works to dazzle viewers year after year.
It's all about the lighting. Sarah Alcali has the business news as well, and foul play here in Singapore, Sarah.
Yes, Steve. 13 chicken distributors have been slapped with a record fine. Singapore's competition regulator says it's for price fixing and market sharing activities for nearly 7 years.
ASEAN is well positioned to take advantage of the new technological revolution because of its strong economic fundamentals and commitment to further integrate economies. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong made the comments while speaking at the 27th World Economic Forum in Hanoi. Our senior correspondent for Indochina, Mei Wong, has more.
Say goodbye to this and start getting used to this. Technology is transforming old tasks and shaping the way the world functions, while technological breakthroughs will happen more frequently and also be more advanced. And Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong is confident that the ASEAN member nations can take advantage of these new opportunities.
ASEAN will become the fourth largest economy in the world by 2030, after the US, China, and the European Union. We have a young and educated workforce. 60% of our population is under 35 years old. They are comfortable with new technology, and the digital economy in ASEAN is projected to grow to reach $200 billion by 2025. Secondly, ASEAN is committed to further economic integration. This is an important condition for the fourth industrial revolution because it's about building networks, creating new synergies, and staying connected. And ASEAN member states have been working together towards the ASEAN Economic Blueprint 2025 so that ASEAN businesses can operate more seamlessly across the region.
ASEAN is also working on streamlining e-commerce regulations. This will enable businesses within the region to trade more easily with one another. Using a single online platform to facilitate customs cargo clearance, thus cutting transaction costs, is yet another initiative. While in Hanoi, Prime Minister Lee cited the collaboration with Vietnam as an example of how the two ASEAN members are learning from each other and harnessing technology to bring about mutual benefits. The 7 Vietnam-Singapore industrial parks established have attracted $11 billion worth of investments from 800 international firms, providing more than 200,000 jobs. Now, this enhances the deep economic ties between the two nations and form the invaluable infrastructure that will benefit both Vietnam and Singapore companies. Mr. Lee also said this fourth industrial revolution is a dynamic and continuing process.
The fourth industrial revolution is a dynamic and continuing process. We can't predict exactly how it will unfold, but I'm optimistic about ASEAN's future, because ASEAN has its own competitive strengths, and by pooling our ideas and resources and integrating our economies, we'll be in a strong position to ride on this fourth wave to bring tangible benefits to our economies and our peoples.
By collaborating as a 10-member group, Mr. Lee believes ASEAN will be able to strengthen its position and deal with the future challenges, especially when the open, rules-based multilateral trading system becomes increasingly threatened. Mei Wong, Channel News Asia, Hanoi, Vietnam.
Diners will soon be able to pay for meals without cash at nearly 250 coffee shops, hawker centres and industrial canteens. That's after payments provider NETS was appointed to roll out a unified unified e-payment solution?
Well, it's for eateries at properties run by National Environment Agency, Housing Development Board and JTC. In the next 2 years, consumers will be able to pay with funds from up to 20 payment schemes, which include e-wallets.
By the end of this year, going cashless at coffee shops, industrial canteens and hawker centres will get easier with a unified e-payment system. So diners can pay for their meals without cash with just one instead of multiple systems. And analysts think small merchants can save on cash management costs.
Because when they have to deal with a lot of loose change, that creates costs and problems for them. And they also incur transaction costs when they go to the banks to deposit the money. If this e-payment solutions is able to capture this target group of merchants and are able to offer them a solution and also don't incur a high transaction cost, unlike these credit cards, and I think this would be a good group of merchants to start with.
The unified system would eliminate the need for multiple terminals or QR codes, which authorities have identified as a common bugbear in the e-payment ecosystem. Some hawkers who have adopted e-payments welcome the move.
一个 code 的话会比较方便啦，因为不用粘太多 code 在我们的店那个档口，然后会比较整齐一点。我们可以自己摆多一点我们自己的照片。
对我们来讲啊，如果统一一下的话，只剩下一家或者两家的话，那可能更方便我们了，就不会那么混乱、那么复杂。那对于一些那个消费者来讲，应该也是比较简单一点。
This scheme will be rolled out in 2 phases. The first phase involves 10 payment systems which will go live by the end of this year. These include American Express, Liquid Pay, and WeChat Pay. The other 10 will be introduced next year. Nets will run the entire system, so businesses need not liaise with different individual payment schemes and acquirers. According to Enterprise Singapore, 4 in 10 meals take place at coffee shops, hawker centres and canteens, which is why the government is enabling a solution in which transactions can be made easily, quickly and securely. However, experts say Singapore is behind e-payment savvy countries like China, which have large market players and less fragmentation. But they add that more consumers are likely to begin using the service as more merchants join the scheme. With the impending launch of a national universal QR code called SGQR, which will unify most e-wallets currently in use, it looks like the only way for e-payments is up.
And stay with us as we will have more Singapore news coming up for you in 2.
Be carried out at various sites near traffic intersections and pedestrian crossings between Corporation Road and Boon Lay Way. Now, this is one of the areas where sensors will be installed to monitor traffic flow. If you look behind me, you can see that traffic is already building up with the evening peak period approaching. Now, with the new systems, sensors will be able to detect which direction has the most traffic and then time the traffic lights accordingly. Now, this will mean a smoother journey for motorists and also pedestrians. Data will be collected from the trial and the results used to refine the system.
A 33-year-old information technology engineer was detained last month under the Internal Security Act. Investigations by the Home Affairs Ministry showed that he was radicalized and wanted to take up armed violence in Syria to support the terrorist group Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or IS.
The ministry said that Singaporean Ahmed Hussein Abdul Qadir Sheikh Uduman grew to believe that using violence in the name of religion was justified. Ahmed first became radicalized in 2013 when he turned to the internet for religious knowledge.
Then, 2 years ago, he was convinced that he should fight and die as a martyr for IS. He maintained regular contact with foreign pro-IS individuals on social media to keep up with developments.
He also tried to influence some of his foreign online contacts to follow violent teachings by radical ideologues such as Anwar al-Awlaki and others who have been arrested for inciting violence.
In response, the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore, or MUIS, said that the latest case of self-radicalization is a reminder that the threats of terrorism through exposure to online extremist propaganda remains alive.
MUIS added that it reinforces the danger of seeking religious knowledge from the internet, where individuals are swayed by foreign radical ideologues who misinterpret the religion to incite violence. MUIS reminded the Muslim community to seek knowledge from credible sources, such as religious teachers registered under the Asatiza recognition scheme.
Separately, a 39-year-old self-radicalized woman, Munawar Baig Amina Begum, was issued a suspension direction last month. That means she was released from detention after authorities assessed that she no longer posed an imminent security threat. She was detained in November last year for supporting IS and had intended to go to Syria to join the group.
Stray dogs sightings, wild monkey break-ins, high-rise littering and dangerous cycling. These are just a few of the municipal problems that have been jointly addressed by interagency collaboration with the community.
And these efforts have been recognized today with 18 awards given out by the Municipal Services Office. Outstanding individuals and teams comprising volunteers, government agencies and town councils received the Municipal Services Award today.
These included civic-minded individuals and groups who had formed patrol teams with help from the Land Transport Authority to ensure safer paths for their neighbours in Serangoon and Mountbatten.
Young students from Aitong Primary School also received an award for working with the Agri-Food and Veterinary Authority to discourage pigeon feeding. The head of the Municipal Services Office said the awards signal the importance of community involvement in solving such issues.
We take a very citizen-centric approach, understanding the needs and challenges on the ground. The solutions that we have would often be more effective, more relevant to the residents. Also, we have found out that many of the residents actually hold resources that's so important in the resolution of the problem.
Sarah Alcalde is up ahead with today's business headlines, and fewer people seem to be buying cars, Sarah.
Yeah, Steve, and that dragged down the latest retail sales figures, and we'll tell you what else proved less popular after this break.
Welcome back to Singapore Tonight.
Let's get across to Sarah for some business news. A chicken cartel has been caught like a fox caught red-handed in a hen house.
Well,
sorry, too many puns, but you can carry on.
But 13 suppliers of fresh chicken meat have been fined nearly $27 million for price fixing and market sharing. This is the highest penalty ever meted out by the Competition and Consumer Commission of Singapore for a single case. Now, the 13 suppliers control 98% of the chicken market here in Singapore. They distribute to supermarkets, wet markets, hawker stalls, restaurants, and hotels. The cartel was active between 2007 and 2014. And during that period, the competition watchdog found evidence of 7 instances where the group increased prices from 10 cents to 30 cents per kilogram each time. Gwyneth Jo has more on the case.
A 4-year investigation which led to the biggest fine ever meted out for anti-competitive behavior. In 2014, the competition regulators received a tip-off that 13 fresh chicken meat distributors were colluding to control prices and market share. During the investigation, it was discovered that the suppliers were in discussions way back in the year 2000, but evidence was only found in the years from 2007 to 2014. These were quotes made by key personnel of the 13 suppliers to the Commission as evidence. They agreed to collectively raise prices and to not compete for each other's customers. The competition watchdog also found that the Poultry Merchants Association was used as a front for the collusion. In fact, for the 7 years that the cartel was active, the association's honorary secretary came from one of the colluding companies, Sinma Poultry Processing. In fact, the association's registered address brought us right here to Sinma. The investigation also revealed cross-ownership of the companies.
Interlocking directorship is not uncommon and is not illegal because sometimes they need to have some common knowledge, some advices that would help all the companies all better off in this industry. On the other side, the interlocking directorship can facilitate the collusion.
Collectively, the 13 suppliers have an annual turnover of more than $500 million. And those firms that earned more were handed larger fines. Some companies like Hi-Fresh, Kisong, Sinma and Tonghuat were awarded a leniency discount for helping in the investigation. But how will all this affect consumers? The competition watchdog says it's unlikely they'll notice any difference.
After we commenced investigations in 2014, we did not see that there's evidence of coordinated price increases among the parties. So the prices for consumers would reflect the current competitive market conditions as they are without the cartel in operation.
A Fair Price spokesperson added that poultry prices in their supermarket chain have remained stable over the past few years because it works with multiple sources. The 13 distributors have 2 months to file an appeal to the Competition Appeal Board.
To the economy now, retail sales in Singapore fell 2.6% in July from a year ago, driven down by a slump in car sales. This is the weakest on-year reading since January. The motor vehicle segment was the poorest performer, declining 15.2% from a year ago. But excluding motor vehicles, retail sales were up 0.2%. The petrol station segment was the best performer, rising 10.1% from a year earlier, helped by higher pump prices. Other segments that posted gains included the furniture and household equipment, as well as the medical goods and toiletries segment, which logged increases of over 2% on year. Total retail sales in July stood at an estimated $3.7 billion, of which online sales contributed about 4.4%. Going forward, one economist said the decline in retail sales could continue for the rest of the year.
They're likely softer in the second half, given that the obstacle or constraint to growth are likely to emerge from just trade worries as well as emerging markets uncertainty, and that might persist for a little while. Consumer may be a little bit more cautious about spending in general itself.
Let's turn to business news outside the country now, and let's turn to South Korea, where the latest jobs report has spelled bad news for President Moon Jae-in. The country saw its unemployment rate reach the highest level since January 2010. Now, it rose to 4.2% in August, higher than the previous month. And back in 2010, that's when the unemployment was at a similar rate. Well, the global financial crisis was to blame for the spike, and that caused the loss of 10,000 jobs. But the number of employed people in August in South Korea this year also is the worst in more than 8 years. Jobs growth slumped to 3,000. Workforce participation rate dropped slightly as more jobs were lost than created. August's drop in South Korea's jobless rate was worse than the forecast. Observers predict a further slump for the coming months, saying the country's job market may worsen. The bad news will continue to undermine President Moon's economic agenda. His current approval rate has plunged to its lowest since his inauguration. President Moon was elected after pledging to boost jobs and increase the minimum wage. South Korea's finance minister Kim Dong-yeon highlighted today that the government will need to adjust its wage policies. He says they will discuss slowing the speed of minimum wage hikes. Back here in Southeast Asia, it's all systems go for Indonesian ride-hailing firm Gojek. It launched its services in the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi. GoViet is part of the firm's $500 million expansion worldwide. The app-based on-demand service offers transport and logistics, as well as food delivery and mobile payments. GoViet took a whopping 35% of the market for motorbike ride-hailing services in Ho Chi Minh City. That was just weeks after its launch on the 1st of August. Back in May, the company said it would invest $500 million to enter Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. That's after Uber sold its regional operations to Grab. Now, here are some other business stories this hour. Australia's antitrust regulator has approved the takeover for the biggest gas pipeline company in the country. APA Group is set to be bought for $9.8 billion by a consortium led by Hong Kong's CK Infrastructure Holdings. The Hong Kong company already is one of the largest foreign investors in Australia's infrastructure. The transaction still needs approval from Australia's overseas investment watchdog. Mazda Motor will reportedly launch its first diesel engine hybrid vehicle in 2020. The Nikkei says the car will be first released in Europe and Japan before potentially heading to the U.S. Demand for diesel vehicles has been sliding since Volkswagen's emissions cheating scandal in 2015. That scandal pushed several Japanese automakers to shift away from these types of vehicles. And those are our business headlines this hour, guys.
Yeah, very many thanks for that, Sarah. Plenty of news still ahead here on Singapore Tonight. Do stay with us. you're just joining us, here's a recap of our top stories this evening. ASEAN is well positioned to take advantage of the next technological revolution because of its strong economic fundamentals and a commitment to further integrate economies. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong made the comments while speaking today at the World Economic Forum in Hanoi. Cashless payments is said to become easier and more widespread as payments provider Nets is appointed to unify e-payments at hawker centres and coffee shops. In the next 2 years, consumers will be able to pay with funds from up to 20 different e-payment schemes. And motorists and pedestrians could look forward to smoother traffic flow in the future thanks to a new smart traffic light control system that will be trialled from the end of this month.
Be non-partisan and speak from the heart. That's the advice outgoing nominated members of parliament have for their successors. Our reporter Chan Lo-er caught up with two of them ahead of their last parliamentary session in September.
They sleep fewer hours than most.
Once I went to parliament without sleep.
And face intense public scrutiny.
I'm the NMP who says CPF is not your money.
But it's just water off their backs because they have a job to do. Two-term NMP Chia Yong-yong says her comments on CPF withdrawals in 2015 were misunderstood. She had wanted to remind Singaporeans of their responsibility to spend money meant for retirement wisely. Looking back, the full-time lawyer, who is also president of the SPD, stands by her message. She's grateful for being given the platform to speak on issues that concern all Singaporeans and to advocate for greater inclusion of people with disabilities.
Seeing a member of parliament on a wheelchair is already a powerful visual image. And of course, there are people who say, I wouldn't have been in parliament if not for my disability. And I don't disagree with that.
The ability to champion a cause on such a visible platform is also the reason why Unionist K. Thanalakshmi says sacrifices such as less time with family is worth it.
I called for companies to inform MOM if they are going to retrench their workers. Months later, I see something happening.
Ms. Thanalakshmi holds many roles within the labour movement and has a full-time job as a senior assistant manager in the healthcare industry. Despite her hectic schedule, Parliament records show she's the only NMP with a perfect attendance and has spoken the most number of times.
A few weeks ago, I was looking at my write-up, for my NMP application. I think I've addressed all those issues that we want to speak on. So I've not left any gaps, and I feel satisfied.
Asked about their most memorable session, Ms. Thanalakshmi chose the debate on the elected presidency for what she called a robust exchange. Ms. Chia spoke about the session where MPs sought clarification on the detention of SAF Terex vehicles in Hong Kong.
The members of parliament, regardless of whether they were from the ruling party or the opposition party, were concerned enough to close ranks and say this is Singapore.
Both have decided not to take on another term, but you can be sure they will continue to champion their causes in other ways.
Parliament received 48 forms when applications for its next batch of NMPs closed in July, and the new NMPs are expected to be named soon.
Yes, and to discuss this further, we have with us Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the School of Law at Singapore Management University. He joins us in studio tonight, and he was also formerly an NMP from 2012 to 2014. So on two counts, you're perfectly well placed, Eugene, to talk about this. What's your assessment then of how the NMP scheme has sort of contributed to the debates in Parliament?
Well, I'm biased. No, but I think in all seriousness, I think when you look at the parliamentary record, I think if you were to see the debates, without the NMP's contributions, I think the debates would have been less dynamic, fewer views being represented. I think that's one of the attractiveness of the NMP scheme, the idea of bringing in unrepresented or underrepresented voices. So I think when Parliament makes laws or decides on policies, they're able to take into account, all these different diverse opinions. I think here, when you look at the NMP scheme, I think there is also that attempt, to to again put forth the Singapore view, that even though the legislature is a place for competing, contesting views and even conflicting views, there must also be alternative views that are expressed, so that issues are debated in a rigorous manner and that it doesn't take on a partisan approach. So NMPs are supposed to bring that non-partisan view, the independent perspective, and of course, given the domain expertise that they have, to also add to the discussion for issues on the table.
Okay, so saying all that, 48 applicants received this time round. So what is it that they're actually looking out for, the select committee? What are they looking out for when they nominate an MP?
Well, the Constitution requires the Special Select Committee, to take into account, the applicants, in terms of, whether they've rendered distinguished public service, whether they have, brought honor to the country and the expertise that they bring with them. But I think increasingly Parliament is also concerned with, are they going to have NMPs who can contribute, to what they think are the big issues that will appear, that will present themselves during the NMP's 2.5-year term. And so that's when, they try to, bring in people who can add, to the debate, add to the discussion, bring different perspectives. And I think this is where, the Special Select Committee will be coming from. You have traditional groups being represented, so whether it's businesses, whether it's the labour movement, but, you will have people from civil society, from academia, from arts and culture. I think the idea is to try to have as broad-based a representation as possible.
And going forward then, what do you think this next batch, what sort of will be the issues or the hot-button topics that they will be likely to be facing?
I think when you look at the legislative agenda, I certainly, online falsehoods, misinformation, that's something that Parliament will certainly be discussing. We're still waiting for the Select Committee report, but I think we expect, the legislative agenda to move very quickly. Recently, there was the Penal Code Review Committee's recommendations, and again, the government plans to move the amendments, during the course of this Parliament's term. So we are going to look at these two issues, that will feature very prominently on the legislative front. But if you think about policy, I think, whether we're looking at inequality, that's something that will feature. You look at things like the global trading environment, the concern with what's happening globally in terms of the economy as well as global security. I think these are also other issues that Parliament will be concerned with. So I think the Select Committee will be looking, to see among the 48 applicants, who are those that can bring, an added dimension to the discussion. So that it's not just about rhetoric and form, but also bringing substance, to the debate and getting Singaporeans to understand the issues as well.
Okay, there's been coffee shop talk as well that, the number of opposition MPs in Parliament now, it's quite, we have more opposition MPs now. So is the role of NMPs, still relevant today?
I would say so. I think, here we are trying to evolve our own model of political representation. So you have the elected MPs, you have the non-constituency MPs, to ensure that, opposition voices are there. The NMPs are supposed to bring the alternative voices, so depending on how you want to interpret that, essentially just means, bringing a different perspective, one that is not bound by party lines. And so I think, it certainly adds, to the quality of debate, but that depends, again, on the MPs, being able to speak with conviction, and particularly, for this incoming batch of NMPs, because we are into the second half of the current Parliament's term. And that is also when issues tend to be a lot more hotly contested, hotly debated. And so I think it becomes even more imperative, for the NMPs, not to be flustered by, the political ongoings, but to focus, on what they're there, bringing a different perspective, speaking, without fear or favour. I think that would certainly add to the whole NMP scheme. But it's a matter of time. One certainly hopes that, NMPs would have outlived their usefulness, because that would mean that, Parliament is able, to bring on board, different voices, ensure that all the important and different groups are adequately represented.
All right, so looking forward to the next batch of NMPs that are coming in. Thank you so much, Eugene, Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the School of Law at Singapore Management University.
Still ahead, what kind of food should you be eating to age well? Important stuff. We've got an expert in studio to weigh in when we come back.
Welcome back. The number of people in Singapore who are 100 years old is going up. Are these centenarians eating the right things to help them stay healthy? And what can Singapore learn from a place like Okinawa in Japan, where 80 to 90-year-olds are known to live like people 30 years younger?
And to help us understand all that, we have in studio the president of the Japanese Society of Anti-Aging Nutrition, Dr. BJ Diaz. He is a specialist in nutrition and biotechnology and is in Singapore this week for a convention on food and supplements. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Diaz.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Now, firstly, you've spent many years studying data of people over 100 in Okinawa. Tell us what you've learned.
Yeah, in the beginning, we thought beyond, living beyond 100 years, what is striking is they are living in very good shape. No diabetes, very good memory, very good skin conditions, and above all, and the most striking, very optimistic people. This is, I think, boiling back to not only one part of nutrition, but the whole ecosystem that surrounds them.
Okay, so share with us some of the, secrets that they actually have to having all these, good skin, good, everything that's positive.
I think this is coming from bacteria living in the sea, the probiotics that live in the ocean.
And it's because Okinawa is an island and surrounded
by the ocean. I think because of this nutrition and because of the ability to connect with this nature, that is not polluted. This is allow their health ecosystem to remain healthy.
Okay, tell us about this bacteria that you're talking about by the sea.
When we say we are eating fish and it is healthy, I think beyond the fish there is this probiotics that live in the sea, in the ocean, and deliver to the human body. And when we eat seaweed, the same thing is beyond the minerals inside, there is this complicated and very sophisticated microorganism that can enrich human body and help it to recover and survive the hard conditions.
Well, Singapore is an island too, and it has an aging population, but we don't necessarily see the similar characteristics here, though, do we?
I think no, not yet. And there is also there is challenge for Singapore is slowly disconnected from nature. If we go to the pool, it is not anymore ocean pool, it is purified water pool. So the people find themselves disconnected from the ecosystem of the nature, which is very powerful.
So can we try and replicate that, by eating healthier? What about our hawker foods? We have a lot, we eat a lot out. So, is that healthy eating? Because we're trying to reduce the oils and eating more brown rice and, do away with white. Are those helping?
I think the point of reducing is not I think what we must add is what is missing. How can we connect this street food and simple food with the nature again? Like using some ingredient coming from the ocean, like seaweed, for example, which can absolutely replace a lot of source of medicine. Today at Vita Food, we talked about how to bring the probiotics to the average people food, and it is really very interesting to do.
And beyond food, is there other lifestyle choices perhaps, or is there other things that can be done to help prolong life, not just prolong life, but to maintain sort of a good life, as you described in Okinawa, where mental faculties are still there, where skin is good and, physically fit?
I think, the social life and connecting with other human is very, very important. And this is what longevity is contagious, plus minus, we can say, and good health is contagious. So if we connect with the healthy people through not only social, but through other activities, etc., which is very, very popular in Okinawa, but also in Japan, from dance to social event, etc. This is, I think, can empower our ecosystem to not only live longer again, but in very, very good shape. And this is, I think, the true luxury of the next stage, how to remain healthy forever,
Yeah, aging gracefully.
That's right, something on all our minds. Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us.
Thank you for this chance. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been great to have you, Dr. Diaz. Dr. BJ Diaz, President of the Japanese Society of Anti-Aging Nutrition in Tokyo.
Thank you.
Mount Vernon Columbarium Complex will live on online, even as it's slated to close for good at the end of this month. The Ang Chin Mo Foundation plans to create a 3D immersive experience of the iconic space so it won't be forgotten by future generations.
The foundation is currently seeking approval from authorities to document the entire space. Wendy Wang reports.
Mount Vernon is the site of Singapore's first public crematorium. Known for its iconic 9-story pagoda, the site houses 20,000 niches and 8 funeral parlours. And after almost 6 decades, it will be demolished to make way for the upcoming Bidadari estate. But non-profit organisation Ang Chin Mo Foundation wants to immortalise the historical space online. It's looking to create a walkthrough of the 7-hectare site through a combination of old photographs as well as video and drone footage. It says a 3D visualization will make the experience more authentic.
It's very important for Singapore as a young country. We only have very short history. So by preserving this, we are able to let the next generation know, the younger Singaporeans know, how it was done before and how it's going to be right now and how it's going to be in the future.
Mr. Ang says it's already engaged a company to do this. The foundation intends to start documenting some funeral parlours while waiting for approval to film the rest of the grounds. He revealed this on the sidelines of a Design Challenge Awards ceremony where architecture students showcased their designs for funeral facilities alongside a panel discussion on how to coexist with such facilities. And while taboos surround spaces for the dead, one student who proposed locating a columbarium in a park alongside recreational spaces hopes good design can change perceptions.
Definitely, if you create something controversial, something loud, something which stands out, something which screams that, oh, this is a columbarium, people would have a natural outcry because they are afraid of the unknown. But I feel if you do it tactfully, quietly, it could actually help to ease in this idea that actually these columbarium spaces are not too bad. They actually give back to the park. They actually give back to the spaces and they enhance the environment rather than just taking away from it.
Construction work on the new complex is expected to begin in the second half of 2021. Integrated within Bidadari Estate, it will be ready by 2024.
Still ahead on Singapore Tonight, lighting up the world's only Formula One night race is no easy task. We go behind the scenes and find out how they make it happen.
technology should be harnessed to improve the lives of women. That's according to President Halimah Yacob. She said this during the Women's Forum.
If we can combine the best of the global technology industry with the ingenuity and resourcefulness of women to solve the challenges posed by the digital divide, we can unlock a colossal wave of human potential and freedom for future generations.
Madam Halimah added that by providing skills training and creating the right pipelines, businesses can allow women to be in leadership positions. She said Singapore's government is working to ensure the advancement of all women and girls by providing equal opportunities and access to resources. More than 800 delegates and speakers from ASEAN countries attended the forum, which was held for the first time in Singapore.
More people need to come forward to be involved in shaping the social sector, not just professionals, but volunteers from civil society as well. Speaker of Parliament Tan Chuan Jin was speaking at the Singapore Summit Young Societal Leaders Programme today.
He said that it's an opportunity for the rest of society to come on board to help the disadvantaged.
To truly deal with issues, I think you can't just depend on some of the structures and initiatives. I think a lot of it is also asking people to come forward, to be involved and to participate in that space.
The summit was attended by more than 20 young leaders, and they come from different backgrounds from Singapore and around the world and are committed to building better societies.
Singapore will once again light up television screens around the world as Formula One's only full-night race rumbles into town for the 11th year.
And one of the aspects that has made the event such a success has been the lighting. It helps illuminate both the Marina Bay Street Circuit and Singapore's standing as a premier tourism destination. So, how exactly does the magic happen? Well, Channel News Asia went out to find out.
The emotion that you have when finally the race starts is always the same.
It's almost a labor of love for Roberto Grilli and his team, who've been in charge of lighting up the Marina Bay Street Circuit since the first Singapore Grand Prix in 2008. They'll line the 5-kilometer track with 1,600 light projectors, which are installed 10 meters up and 4 meters apart. 12 twin power generators provide the needed energy, and the lights are fully charged in as little as 15 minutes. Once they're fired up, the track can be brighter than the National Stadium. The whole installation takes 3.5 months and involves 40 people, and they work to deliver to both drivers and viewers at home the perfect view. It's one of the things that Mr. Grilli believes makes the Singapore Grand Prix so special.
Over the years, some other circuits try to light up, of course, the Formula One Grand Prix, but Singapore preserved his own kind of magic because it's a street circuit and it's motorsport, entertainment, and every year is a different experience.
Once the race is over, dismantling begins, and that's likely to be completed by end October. But until then, Mr. Grilli and his team will work round the clock to help ensure the Singapore Grand Prix remains Formula One's crown jewel.
Great timing for the Singapore Grand Prix to come after the release of Crazy Rich Asians, which has had, a lot of attention from around the world.
A lot of publicity for us.
A lot of publicity for Singapore, skyline, beautiful and all that, and now I get another look at it at the Grand Prix. Exactly.
Okay, so I've been to the F1 before, you have as well. Do you have any advice for viewers who, will be attending this for the first time?
Attending it for the first time? Well, if you're watching it for the first time, that's probably the best. My advice actually would be watch it on TV, because that's where it really looks the most stunning. But if you like Formula One, then just get down there. And if you don't like Formula One, just get down there anyway, because there's concerts from loads of different people throughout the weekend. Jay Chou is performing on Friday. The Killers, Liam Gallagher, are performing on Saturday. Dua Lipa and Martin Garrix performing on Sunday. And there's an ABBA tribute band all weekend.
Yeah, my just one advice is bring earplugs.
Anyway, have a great day. Bye for now.
By the springtime flowers of